like ourselves, and she does a great job. So, Samara, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. This is great. I love you guys are doing this, bringing some good energy out there, you know?
You look bright, healthy, happy. What is going on with you these days?
Well, you know, obviously the whole picture of how we operate is a little bit shaken up right now, but I'm definitely the one upside of working from home and kind of self-isolating. I'm still, with the numbers the way they are, I've just kind of stayed self-isolating even though the state open. So I'm doing like 10 minutes of sun most every day, like 10 or 15 minutes in the hammock. And I tell you, it's like, it makes me really happy.
That's really cool. So is there a science behind that, or is this just like Samara Byrne science of sun?
Yeah, I just really like sun.
Well, I mean, it looks good. It looks great. We said first thing this morning, we were like, you look awesome.
Well, you know, but it's you know, it's cheaper than buying your vitamin D at the store.
She did call it her quarantine glow, which I appreciated.
QG, I'm into that.
Well, I think a little self-care goes a long way, right? Whether it's water or sun or, you know, socializing with people that kind of like lift the energy, or just having a good work day and getting some activities. So it's a combination, right, of all of those things is super important. But yeah, I'm feeling pretty good. So in general, just, you know, obviously everything's different, but a lot of things aren't different. Still working full time, just doing it from home, and doing lots of Zoom calls instead of in-person, you know, sessions and meetings and things. Our shoots have shifted into more, we were doing a lot of Zoom things and repurposing footage. So, you know, just shifting up the way that we're working a little bit while we kind of figure things out and clients readjust. And so anyway, doing that kind of stuff. And because I am working, you know, maybe still full time, but a little less, you know, just trying to do a little more self-care, which is in home projects and things, which I think a lot of people are, you know, embracing right now. So that's been good.
Good. So, you know, like I said, I'm a fan of Riester, fan of yours. Of course, I've got a reason to be. You guys keep us running, keep the motor running. But, you know, I've never met Tim Riester, but I've heard a lot of cool things about him and different things. And obviously, he's a successful dude. And I call him a dude now. Like he's probably like,
dude,
who's this guy calling me a dude?
It's the dude of all dudes.
But I'm curious and you might not be able to give us the exact details, but could you talk to us about the leadership team over at Riester and how they approached this sort of crisis, you know, because something came and it's this big new wave of confusion and something like that could be very scary. And I would love to hear how they reacted, how somebody who's very successful sat everyone down and talked to you and told you how things were going to be or not be or whatever. I'm curious.
Yeah, no, it's a good question. Well, first of all, so I've been at Riester, it'll be 8 years this fall. And yeah, I know, it's kind of hard to believe. When I took the job, I was like, well, I'll do it for a year and see how it goes. You know, here we are 8 years later. How life goes. But no, it's been amazing. It's been a really good experience overall. And what I learned in just leading up to COVID, right, and all of that time being there, so there's 4 partners at Riester. Well, there were 4 partners at Riester. They're growing their partner team a little bit. But when I started, there were 4 partners. And they, as a team, are just really good humans, which I think is one of the reasons that, I mean, obviously, I'm really happy to work in this industry. And, you know, I love the people I work with in general, but they've been a pleasure to work for. And they really get like the human level, right? They want to take care of their employees and their clients in a fair way. And you know, and the planet, I mean, they have, in my opinion, good priorities. And so it helps to work for good people. And exactly when things like this come up is when that, you know, in that crisis mode, I guess, when character really shows. So it's a good question. One of the neat things the partners did, gosh, I want to say it's been about 3 years, which is a long time to keep up a habit, you know. They started like a weekly, they call it the Riester Report, and they just do an in-house kind of, you know, just some lights and one camera, just kind of a basic production. But what they're doing is they're doing like a weekly update. So they talk about what's going on in, new business, current creative, what we've done more digital, what we're doing with clients, just any updates, accounts we've gotten, accounts we've lost, anything that employees should know, things the partners are working on that we might not see at our level.
And this is every, I'm sorry, was this every week or once a month?
Every week.
Wow.
Every single Friday they send out an email. And even on the weeks where there's like a holiday or, just something that shifts the schedule and availability, they still will send out something fun and short, like have a good Labor Day weekend or something like that, just to say hey and stay connected. And so that's been amazing because we know what they're thinking. We know what's happening. People are in the loop. I work on a ton of projects, but there's a massive amount of projects that happen that I never see, PR, digital, other things that I just don't touch as much. So it gives us all a chance to see what the other teams are working on too, which is really cool. And so they've used that format to continue to communicate to us during this time. So they addressed COVID. Well, they continually address COVID. It's, ever changing and ongoing. And so it's been great. We feel in the loop. And obviously we're all learning. This is like one of those things where every week we're learning something as a globe, right? not just as a company, but as a country or a company, but as an entire world. So, things shift and they're keeping us surprised as they're able, but it's been really good because we at least know what's going on. It gives you a little comfort and, they let us know like, hey, this is a little rocky. Just maybe, we're trying to figure it out. This is what we're looking at right now. Or we're feeling really good about these things. So it gives you a little peace of mind or lets you know where to.
So who's the one that's delivering the message?
So it depends on availability, but lately all four of them have just been getting on Zoom. Tim and Mary Riester, and then Tom Ortega, who is my boss. He runs the creative team. Well, much more than that, but he runs the creative team. And then Alan Perkel, who runs the digital team. So there's more partners than that at Riester, but those are the four core that I started with and who are in the Phoenix office. And so, other weeks leading up to COVID, they, depending on who was available, 2 or 3 of them would pop on. And now they've kind of all been joining via Zoom, so we get to see all their faces and connect a little bit. It's been really nice. And so what they did at the very beginning, they kind of said, okay, the next 2 weeks of March, everybody's going to work from home. And then they called April for the month. And then they said, wow, it looks like the state's going to reopen. And we're looking at the actual math, and it doesn't look great. It looks too early. And so they said, we're just going to hang tight and keep you guys safe, and let's just keep working. And I know Tom specifically, because I'm on his team, he's had weekly meetings with the whole creative team, which is like about 17 people. And we just all check in on just what's working, what's not working, what jobs we have going, if there's any issues. And so there's been great communication from a project standpoint, but also we have a little like, how's everybody feeling and how's everybody doing? And that's been really good.
So you kind of mentioned this, and I'm always interested in this thing. I think it's important. So when your leaders get on there, it sounds like basically what they're talking about is here's where we were, here's where we are, here's where we're going, right? Past, present, future, and that's a really important thing. Would you say that there's an exceptional authenticity and honesty, and maybe that the partners are even willing to share their own feelings and their own fears and whatnot, like a little bit, so you know where they are coming from for real?
It's hard to say exactly what goes through their mind. So it's just what I see as like my perception of what they're sharing. I will say, I work the most closely with Tom, and he is just about as good of a human as
he is. He's pretty great. Yeah,
that's not a stuck up thing to say. That's just a real thing. And anybody who knows him, I think, can get behind that. It's true. He's a really good guy, and he'll definitely share. Obviously they don't want to freak people out. They don't want to be overly dramatic. They've got to probably keep a few things under their hat, but I think they've been extremely real. Yeah. Even in light, and I think this would be okay to share, even in light of, the first week that the protests kind of erupted all over the world, just in the last few weeks, they address that too. And just kind of like, the impact it was having of us all not being able to be together to talk about it. And how, even more than ever, maybe they were missing the team being in person, because it's just a really important time to connect and like make sure everybody's feeling okay. And anyway, just share some very, I thought, genuine feelings during that time, which is, you never know how people are going to react. You're opening yourself up when you do those types of things, but I think it's really important to be real and acknowledge what's going on. And I didn't think they had to do that, but they did. And I thought it was great. And it was extremely genuine and not surface. It felt, to me, like just a real, definitely authentic and genuine response. So it makes you feel good when you're working for somebody who kind of gets it, the human side,
Yeah, that's really important. I'm gonna talk on this for a second for our team and for also just those that are watching right now. If you're a part of a team, or you are the leader of a team, especially if you're the leader, you have to understand there's a huge power to vulnerability. And you being willing to share who you are, where you are. Now, like Samara said, there's a few things that need to stay under your hat, and it's just like maybe even for a brief time, because you can't talk without totally freaking out about something. So give it a minute to settle. But people need to see that you're human, and I think this is a big mistake that leaders make. Is they'll ask their teams to be honest. They'll ask their teams to communicate with each other and whatnot, but if they're not doing it from the top down, then people are going to demonstrate what they see their leaders do. And so when people realize that there's a lot of strength that comes from being willing to be vulnerable, and Samara mentioned here her team saying things like, hey, so we know that things are rocky, obviously, and acknowledging that, hey, we're feeling the feels too. You're not alone. We feel it too. And even this power of the idea of I don't know. I know that's going to be an entire episode for us here, but coming in without being arrogant, but saying, hey, I've got a plan. I don't know, because we've never been through this before. The same way you've never been through it, we've never been through it. So I'm not telling you I have the answer. I'm just saying, here's the direction we're going. I'm asking you all to follow me, and I'm asking you to follow me in such a way that is me also acknowledging I don't know what I don't know, and I don't even know if it's going to work out. I just know we got to keep moving forward, because otherwise we're going to move backwards. So that's why I was really curious about the leadership team over there. And I know you're surrounded by great people, and obviously they're smart enough to snag you up and coerce you to stay longer than the first year.
I didn't have to twist my arm too hard.
So before we get back into some work life, let's talk about you and your love of nature and animals and whatnot, and get into the personal, vulnerable side of Samara.
Sure. That doesn't sound intimidating.
Not at all.
It sounds good.
So talk to us about your how many animals, who do you what are their names, and it looks, she's blushing. It's so funny. She's like, he's talking about her animal. I could be like boyfriend. She's like, no problem, boss, no
animals,
problem.
Oh man, so blushy.
That's probably how people feel about their kids. I don't know. No, I know animals aren't quite the same as actual human children, but no, I'm super attached to my I don't have children. I have fur baby children. So I used to have 2 labs, and just quite a long time ago, and they've since passed. And I waited just a little too long to get another dog. And when I did, I was like, oh my God, why did I wait so long? They're the best. We don't deserve dogs. They're the best. So I have a dog and a cat, and they're both rescues. Lola is actually from Mexico. My friend went there, and she kind of knew a guy who owned a store that she always went to, and this dog, my dog, kind of befriended his store and was definitely in need of some care. And so he kind of got her started and got her like a flea and tick medicine and gave her some food and water and was trying to help her a little bit. And my friend actually brought her over the border and brought her home and plopped her into my backyard. So that was just a little over 4 years ago. And she's awesome. Her name's Lola. And what I love about, well, I mean, she's amazing in a million ways, but one thing that's really fun is like we hang out, you know, like she kind of propels me to get out of the house, and she's like, I can't skip a walk, or, you know, on the weekends I take the morning to go adventure with her, and we just jump in the car and go somewhere close, like we'll go to ASU campus, and then we'll go to Tempe Town Lake, and then the bridle path on Central, and, you know, just even to a new neighborhood that we haven't walked or run through before. So we do a lot of that kind of stuff. She's a lot of fun. She camps with me, and she's completely crazy. She's perfect at home. And then I get her in the car and on a walk, and she's like, she's very vocal. And
do you have conversations with your dog? Like, do you have flat out full conversations?
You know, I definitely talk to her a little bit.
Yeah. I know. I used to a lot more even before we had kids, because, you know, you're right. They're not human kids, but they are until you've had human kids.
Right.
It really is the closest thing to it, you know. I mean, and it's funny what they say, like the animated movies and stuff, when like Lady and the Tramp, for instance, like when the kid comes in, the dog is like, the relationship does change. It's so funny. You know, like our dog was sleeping on our bed, and like Leanne was like, oh, I love the dog, and just like buying him treats. And then the baby comes and she's like, outside, you vermin.
Get that hair out of here.
Yeah, exactly.
They're a lot of fun. And then I have a cat, Oliver, who it was the only cat I've ever had. I wasn't a cat person really so much before him, but yeah, he's a lot of fun. I've had him for like 12 years, I think, something like that. So he's been around for a while. Been around through a bunch of moves and a bunch of life changes. So
that's amazing.
They're good. You know, they add a lot to life. That's for sure. You know, they help fill up the love cup. I think that's really important, you know.
Yeah, you got to fill your cup or you can't fill others. And, you know, I agree with you about dogs being so special and that we don't deserve them in a certain way. And there's a special quality dogs have. I talk about this a lot. Dogs get paid to love. Like that's it. So their number one job, their only job, is to love you in spite of you, to love you no matter what. They're not smart enough to know when you've done something wrong. So when you get home and you get unconditional love from your dog, always, every time, assuming the dog hasn't been abused or something like that, you just get unconditional love from your dog. And it's interesting because Samara's now talked about nature quite a bit. She loves nature, loves animals and dogs. So there's this thing about love, about source. I don't know what your faith is, but there's this real connection for people to whatever their source is, God. Some people call it source, the universe, whatever you want to call this thing. It all really does come back to love, and love is so important. And that comes back to even vulnerability and being a guy. And I had to come out and be like, yes, I love you, stranger. And I'm okay saying that, and I feel comfortable in my manhood to say I love you, dude. Brian, Joey.
I love you too, Matt. Dude.
I also love you.
Hey,
Hey,
thanks,
we love
guys.
You, Samara.
Now I'm crying. It's sick.
You guys, and here's the thing about you. You don't just say that. I watch you guys, and I know I get a glimpse of what you do for each other professionally and personally, and I know that you really do. It's genuine, which is really cool.
Let's talk about that. So we got to meet each other through Riester. We had our first gig together. You had to give us a shot. Somebody probably recommended us at some point, and you're like, okay, why not? I'll try something new, I guess. And talk about your first experience, first impression over here.
Well, we're so lucky to get to work in this industry, whether it's, what you guys do, talent, what I do, and working with production companies. We are so lucky to get to be in this business. And then especially in Phoenix, because, there's only so many spots in the production universe, right? For all of these roles. And it's fun. It's a lot of fun, right? We're really lucky to get to do what we do. And so to get to do it with people who love it as much as you do, just makes it an absolute joy. Like you guys exude excitement for what you do, and you're extremely talented and good at it. So that helps also, right? So
nice.
Very enthusiastic team, super talented, and just clearly passionate. And what I love about you guys is like all the streams and the ways that you apply what you do. So you've got your casting, you've got one of the things that I loved hearing about was your movie camp for kids, or, Hollywood camp for kids, whatever you call that, in the summer, just because it's like, you clearly throw yourself into it at a level that's just beyond even what you have to give. Like you go there and then pass it. And it just sounds like such an amazing, like kind of life-changing experience for those kids, right up to that point in their life. So, to work with people who love what they do and, just want to do a good job and throw all their energy into it is a lot of fun. And you guys, your team brings a interesting set of talents, right? Like there's leadership, there's energy, there's the technical side. And, it all just comes through with a ton of excitement and warmth. And it's just fun to be around. And then, the results are great, right? Like you guys are... I know when we work with you and we engage you guys on a project, like we're going to have a conversation to understand our goals, but then also you help plus our idea of what we want to do. And, the results have just been amazing. So, that was my first impression for sure. It's more than just a service. It's a experience. Does that sound?
Sure. Well, that's our goal, actually. We flat out said that exact thing. We want this to be an experience. And it starts with client agency, but it goes all the way through the entire process down to the mother who might be bringing her child to the audition that day. Mm-hmm. She needs to have an experience. And her normal experience is sitting in the lobby, being bored, having kids run around and having things be, late and stressful. And we're like, hey, we're gonna change the dynamic and change the culture of what casting looks like, because we've been on the other side of it and we don't like that part. And if
it's a hard process, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, you spend all this time and energy for a part you may or may not get, and you're in the spotlight for those who are casting. And I mean, it's not an easy thing, and we definitely do not take that for granted. Like, really nice of people, because we can't do what we do without the crew that sets up the lights and the casting team that helps us and the talent that comes in to cast to get the right group of people on screen. So we appreciate it so much. I mean, talent is really important, and that process is really important.
Yeah, I completely agree. And then our other like main staple for what we do. So our three values are summed up into passion, love, mastery. So be passionate about what you do. So pick something you love, which we already talked about, and we did. Love is the center of everything we do. And then mastery is the next step, and that just means growth. So, and that comes back to the radical honesty, being willing to be honest about where you are, but you better be growing. So for instance, COVID came, and first thing we did, we finished a brand new website for the casting company. We haven't even publicly launched it or advertised it because it's sort of like no point right now. But we did that, and then we reinvented casting again. So we've actually figured a way to combine about 5 different technologies and a bunch of different chords, and we were like praying, and then we plugged something in and it worked. It was weird, but we can now cast and we create that experience that you're used to virtually. And so we haven't gotten a chance yet to demonstrate. We were so close with Robert. Actually, we had a gig, and then last minute it fell through. But we're really excited about this growth process, right? Well, I think if you're not honest and you're not growing, it doesn't matter how nice you are. You're gonna eventually go the other direction, and you're gonna lose people. And so I have this funny story. My very first job with Riester was not with you, but was with Robert Farthing, he's gonna be on the show in a week or so, right?
Yeah, like 2 weeks or so.
So I'll talk about this a bit then. But what's funny is I had to leave town, so I was up north, and so the team here was running things, including my wife. Well, Joey wasn't around then. We did not have like a tech person. I was the tech person, and I was out of town. Well, the TV wasn't working, and it was like the client was there, and there was like 12 people, very stressful. And Robert's like, we need a TV. So we just stopped. I get on the phone. I'm like, go to Target and go buy a TV. Because they literally couldn't figure out the button. So I'm like, go buy a new one. Just go buy a new TV.
Wow. Solution mode.
And then I had to, and so then the whole thing's like 45 minutes delayed, and we're embarrassed. And Robert's probably embarrassed because he hired us. It was our first time working with them. And I just had to be honest. I had to just say, hey, we failed. Sorry. Like, that's our bad. It's not going to happen again. I promise you. thank you and whatnot. And he gave honest feedback and then did give us a chance. Like he gave us a chance to try again. But had we not leveled up, had the next experience not been exceptionally better, it doesn't matter if him and I have a good relationship, if we're friends, whatever. He's moving on. He has to, because he's got to look out for his client, right? So to all of you that are out there, it's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to fail. It's okay to try something new. But once you've done that thing, then you got to learn from it. You got to grow from it, and you have to do whatever it takes to make sure at least the same mistake doesn't happen. So when we do our first virtual casting, please forgive us. Because we know not what we do, but we're excited to try it because we think it's going to work, but we also like it works, other than we haven't brought 100 people into it yet. So we'll see.
And let's say also try it, but not just try it at the most standard level of all time.
Yeah, right.
Like that's what makes it challenging, is we're like, and this is what Matt does super well. It's like, let me not just do it the way that it's set up and that's really easy and that we know will work for sure, but like let's test things and let's push the bounds and create something that literally doesn't exist yet.
Yeah, like when the TV wasn't working here and I was in flag, so there's nothing I could do. I was about as red as Samara when you talk about her animals.
That red? That's pretty red.
I was so embarrassed, but you know what? It had a lasting impact on me because I really respect that man quite a bit. As Samara mentioned, we just want to do a good job. Like that's our thing. Like we want to give an experience. We want to do a good job. We want to we really care. And so it had such a lasting impact on me that now not only do we fix it, but we're always looking for the backup plan. I always want to have a backup to the backup, So for the virtual casting now, we literally do have a backup to our backup plan. It's like if and when this breaks, we do this. And if and when that breaks, we do this. And if that breaks, well.
Then we go back to how we did it in the 80s.
Yeah, right.
We go to China.
Then we're like, just wear masks and let's just get this over with.
I think that's a great example of learning and growing. And there's so many ways to do it, right? Like it's just checking in on where do I want to be and am I doing the things to get there? And then obviously learning from, mistakes, and that wasn't necessarily a mistake. It was just a fluke, right? This stuff happens, but giving yourself a chance to get better for it. I think that whole process is really important. I mean, you guys all do that in your personal lives. I see you push yourselves in a lot of arenas. And I recently made this for this last, just to kind of keep myself on track and maintain the recent growth I've had and then find some new ones. I created this little chart that I fill out every week. And on the left-hand column, it's like all my kind of priorities that I need to hit in order to be feeling good at the end of the day or at the end of the week. Like, my water intake, physical activity, am I getting a little social, my personal to-do list, work quality, work quantity, and then and food quality, and then how I'm sleeping and sort of like how all that ladders up to the things that I, sleep and how I feel at the end of the day and those types of things. And, it really helps, like just watching yourself and seeing what's working and what's not working, and then calling yourself out a little. Cause there's, if my food quality isn't as good, or maybe I have one more drink than maybe is practical. Because that's never happened.
Right.
And so, those types of things, and just kind of highlighting them to see where maybe you've slipped, or you didn't get any physical activity for a couple of days. So that becomes a really high priority the next day. So whether it's learning from a mistake like that, or just kind of keeping yourself on your routines. And that's actually one thing I wanted to ask you about, because I feel like you're extremely disciplined. And how do you stay consistent how do you force yourself to stay consistent on the things that are important, whether it's your dedication to your family time, or your quality at work, or your physical routines that help you stay healthy? How do you encourage people to maintain consistency? Because to do it is one thing, and then to keep it up for a lifetime is another.
Yeah. So, well, first of all, I'm glad that I've given off that image. I'm fighting, my goodness, just like everybody else. I think one of the things that is giving me an edge right now is talking about it, being very honest with where I am, because that, going back to what you said, it helps hold yourself accountable. So whenever I have fallen and the discipline fell off, then just admitting it and taking ownership myself is something that helps quite a bit. But it all comes back to your why. If you don't have a really strong why to wake up in the morning, if you don't have a really strong why to work out or to eat right or whatever, it's not going to work out for you. So you have to know at the end of the day, why are you doing this? And, you know, it goes back to Tony Robbins will say, I can't help somebody quit smoking who doesn't really want to quit smoking. It's like they're going to smoke because they want to smoke. That's fine. If they actually want to quit smoking, I can help them. But if your desire is like, I don't actually like smoking, he's like, well, good for you. Smoke. That's cool. There's no problem with that. But don't ask me to help you quit smoking if you don't really want to quit smoking. So you have to go backwards. And I think also it's a good thing in order to figure out what your why is. You need to know, you gotta have a purpose. You gotta know, like, what is my purpose in life? And am I passionate about this thing? Am I helping the world? Is there some like impact that I want to have at a high level? And my energy, let's just say, for instance, is going to be very important in my mission. So then when it comes to my energy, then I can go back to different things, and it all, I believe it all comes back to honesty. But really, so to answer your first question, which is not what I'm about to say, your first question is it's a decision. And you have to be honest with yourself. Did you really decide or not?
And that's authenticity, right? You know, like not just because now I want to do these things because I should, or everybody else is doing them, or that's what I perceive successful people to be doing, but like, or healthy people, whatever it is. But, you know, this is really actually important to me.
Right. Yeah. Like the thing that changed my life was a big event that I'm not even going to go into right now because it's too long of a story. But essentially, February 2nd, 2018, the day I woke up, I started waking up very early, reading the Bible and writing. So this was like boom, boom, boom. I started doing this thing, and this habit came into form, and it really changed my life in a lot of ways. And God started working through me in a new way. Now, I've been very honest about things that have been working and not working. And for instance, food is one of the things that I've been fighting my whole life. And literally, I think it was yesterday or the day before, I made a decision again where I'm like, I don't feel great. Why? And a lot of times what we want to do is we want to blame work. We want to blame somebody else, you know, and we want to be like, oh, I'm too stressed, or I'm this or that. Like, no, let's go back to your choices. What are you doing? And I'm looking at my food intake and I'm going, I'm eating ice cream. I'm eating sugar. I'm doing all these things. And it's like, those things are fine and there's nothing wrong with them. But you know, Matt, what it does to your body. It makes you tired. And so, you know, you can't eat half a pizza right before you go teach and feel like, you know, you're not going to need a coffee. And then when you have the coffee, then you have a hard time falling asleep. And so then you just add up all these things and you're going, okay, let's make the adjustment. Like you said, let's track the adjustment. And then let's see in 2 weeks, how do you feel? And then be honest with yourself. Are you willing to make the decision that this is a lifelong decision? And then it's either a yes or it's a no. So I'm going to say right now, out loud, publicly, my food intake is officially a decision.
Woo!
This morning I had jicama and berries in a bowl, and you know, it's like it looked beautiful in the bowl. It was really pretty, and like I'm like, why was I not doing this every day? This is really great. I feel good. You know, there's nothing wrong with it. And so, so I'm excited about it. And you know what happened as I was learning, I was growing, I was reading a new book.
And he had a really, really bad influence feeding him peanut butter waffles.
Those were so good, though. Those peanut butter waffles were delicious. But they, you know, they also dragged me down a little bit, it turns out. And I think those gave me energy, by the way. The problem was I was giving myself sugar, and I don't have an off switch when it comes to sugar. It's like I open it up and I'm like, give me more.
Give me more sugar.
So, yeah.
So you don't do that with broccoli, right? You don't stop. You can stop eating broccoli, but you can't stop eating the sugar.
Exactly. I want more broccoli.
More broccoli and carrots.
Like, oh, I ate that whole stalk of broccoli.
Yeah. So that's it. I mean, it's like discipline comes back to, did you make a decision? Are you decided? And what does it mean to you at the end of the day? And then you just have to be honest. You can say, I didn't actually make the decision. So I either want this or I don't. And I got to go back and I got to refigure out my why, because clearly it wasn't strong enough. So again, you hold you accountable. That's the big thing. But right now, I mean, it's been really hard because we all crave a schedule. We all crave some sort of what we'd call normalcy. And it's not even you know, I think some of this has been good because it shook people out of their 9 to 5 in some way. So it's like it made people think, which is great. But at the same time, there is something really good about a disciplined schedule and knowing where you're going to go next and all that. And that's been taken away from people. And so if you don't have a positive mindset, it's pretty tough to handle that.
Definitely some pros and cons for sure. But I love what you said about it's really easy when you get out of whack of your things that make you feel good. It's easy to blame something like work or being busy or whatever. I think I definitely fell into that a little bit in 2019. And around, I realized I was just having tons of unhealthy habits. You know, I wasn't meal prepping, so I wasn't eating great. Way too much sugar. Somehow that just got way out of control. You know, and then like you said, it stacks up and I wasn't sleeping and then I didn't feel good in the morning. So that would impact different, you know, rituals that would make me feel better. And it is so easy to kind of blame a thing out there, but it's really choices, right? Yeah. So it's choices on what we say yes to, it's choices on what we, the time that we take to eat. So starting in October of last year, and by no means am I an expert on maintaining balance because it's, you know, it's a never ending quest, but starting in October of last year, just meal prep. Like it was just one simple thing that shifted my entire, shifted everything because I started eating better, started feeling better. And then my energy was better at, you know, work or for exercise or whatever. And just like that, like several things just got immediately corrected or at least improved, right? So sometimes it's just starting, you know, it's just getting started and then deciding, like you said, is this a choice I want to keep? Is this something I want to maintain? That's a great, I think that's maybe the follow-up part that I haven't always nailed, but you know, just getting started is so important and being honest with yourself about what, you know, you want and prioritizing yourself. It's really easy to take care of everyone else first. But if we don't take care of ourselves, we can't, you know, especially people with kids and you know, really important things riding, you know, businesses, you've got to take care of yourself first in order to implement any of that.
Yeah, 100%. And you think to yourself, you just want to like point the finger at somebody else because that's so much easier to do. But as soon as you go like this, you usually find the answer, and then you can make simple adjustments. And what you said is really powerful too. Find something very simple, something little. So like meal prep, okay, boom, I can do that. I can commit to that. Then you change your association to that thing, and that's a big mind game. So I look at meal prep, and it's like instead of saying, oh, I have to meal prep, it's Sunday, you say, oh, I get to meal prep. It makes me feel good and healthy and energized. It's a simple shift. And then instead of saying like, oh, those pancakes are so good, you literally say to yourself, why? I love me too much. I wouldn't let my kid do it. Mm-hmm. So why am I letting me do it? Why am I letting me gorge on this thing? Because like I literally would not sit there and let my 2-year-old just do it because he would. But I wouldn't let him. So if I wouldn't let him, why can't I love myself the same way I love my child? And when you start to see yourself that way, then you can start making these better decisions and you discipline yourself. You parent yourself in such a way that you realize that discipline is the highest form of self-love. Is really what it is. The same way to discipline a child is to love the child. And so we all have a child inside of us, and we need to be disciplined. We crave the discipline. So we don't want to be afraid of it.
And we talked about this yesterday too. We do this to ourselves. Like we create this our own self-talk. Like, we want to take care of other people. Like we want to help other people, both in these disciplines and in mindset. Like Britt talked about the fact that like you would never tell someone like, oh, you don't look very good right now, you know, but we do it to ourselves. Like you'll look in the mirror and you'll find something that you don't like, but it's just us beating ourselves up, you know? And I think we do the same thing mentally sometimes. And we should treat ourselves, like you said, the way you would treat your kid, the way that you would treat others, treat yourself. And that can be really challenging.
And then you just got to create new habits too. So that's the other powerful thing is they say that you can't really, it's so much harder to not do something than it is to implement something new. So if you start the new habit, it'll just sort of replace the old one, and then you don't have to go through the pain of trying to stop doing it. You just don't have time for it anymore. Yeah. And that can be really good too.
Oh, it's so, and that these things that just give you a little lift. And then I think a guiding like motto in my life, at least for like maybe the last, 15 years or so, is perpetual motion is a powerful force. So once something gets rolling, right, it will continue, it will grow, it will propel the next thing. And, it feels great. It feels really good. I think, and in terms of like work, I know right now is a really challenging time for people. I'm talking to freelancers who have like freelance crew who have maybe had like 3 or 4 days of work in the last 3 months.
Yeah.
It's a really, really hard time for people. So, whatever the momentum is that you can find, like you guys are building a new site and new technology for casting so you can do it digitally. Like taking this time to create some momentum in whatever it is you need, whether it's something you need now to get through this time or something that will help you in your business or just personal life when everything resumes back to normal, whenever that is.
I love what you said so much right now. As a matter of fact, that reminds me, can one of you guys write this down? We need to do an episode on momentum.
Momentum.
Momentum is so important. I literally was talking to Joey about this last night. I was saying, hey, we had all this momentum and it feels like we don't have as much momentum as we had. Why? Let's go back. Let's figure out what we're doing different, and let's get ourselves back on this train. So, yeah, momentum is huge. Okay, so I wanted to talk a little bit about your time. You were a broadcast journalist, right? Mm-hmm. Or you went to school for it?
Yeah, I went to school for it. I never actually did like a full-time newsroom kind of gig. I freelanced for Channel 12 for a while on a special project. But yeah, when I finished journalism school, and I was I thought I was going to move to a smaller market because the reporters start in small markets, so yeah. You kind of cut your teeth with less viewers is really what it boils down to, right? And you kind of work your way up to Phoenix is a big market, right? So you don't usually start here.
So were you wanting to be on camera? Was that the initial goal?
Well, I liked the shooting and writing, and editing side. I definitely didn't want to be an anchor. That was way too much on camera for me. But I thought I could handle, a couple of seconds on camera if I needed to. But mostly it was, shooting, writing, and storytelling. I was really very passionate about the import of the press and accountability, right? Holding people, businesses, politicians, services in the city accountable, telling the story so that people know, because you could take a camera one place that most people can't go, and then they see things that they wouldn't otherwise see, right? So that exposure to whatever's happening is a really important part of our process. And so I was very excited about it. And then I'm in Phoenix, and it turned out I wasn't moving as I had originally anticipated might happen at that time. I was actually married, and it just wasn't feasible in my life at the time. Okay. And so I'm like, well, what am I going to do with this plan to be a reporter in a city I'm not going to be a reporter in? So, you kind of go to plan B. And I decided, similar to what you guys do, is just about streams, right? So I was shooting, writing, and editing for, one-off video projects because I was able to do that, right? I was able to kind of figure out what the story is, capture the B-roll in the interviews, and do the camera and the audio side, and tell the story, write it, edit it. So that was a skill set that I had that I was very comfortable with. So I was shooting, writing, and editing, and that turned into a pretty regular event coverage for United Way, which was an amazing organization to be around. It was so positive, and I learned a lot during that time. And then I freelanced for Channel 12 here in town, but it was I did a feature story a week called Comeback Athlete. So it wasn't like a normal news coverage, but that was a great experience. And then, one-off video jobs for other places, and then started helping production companies as a PA, which turned into coordinating and producing for them. And then also did family photography at that same time. So it was just, revenue streams. At one point, things got slow. I picked up a job at Michael's, Yeah. I mean, you gotta do what you gotta do. And it was great. It got me up really early, and it was very active because I was unpacking boxes. I mean, I did it for 6 months, but it filled a gap, and it kept me moving, which was really important to me. And so, I mean, that was a long time ago, but yeah. And then as the freelance thing, as the job that was more lucrative or more time consuming picked up, then I kind of weaned off of the things that were less lucrative. But I tried to make good relationships along the way in case you ever need to go back to something. And,
right.
and it just kind of grew from there.
Can I throw something down real quick? She said in her paper, I just love this. Joey and I were like both like, yeah, like when we were reading this earlier. So you said, starting off in news as a freelance shooter with a camera in hand, you quickly have to become an expert on the story and present as an authority when you're shooting. That taught me the art of both being a fly on the wall and walking into the room like you own the place. And both have served me well. Bro,
literally, that's why I asked the question. I just underlined it. Because now you worked with me with the Goldies. Mm-hmm. I'm writing this book, The Best Listener in the Room. I read that. That was the thing that popped off the page more than anything, because those are kind of the principles of everything that I believe in. So yeah, let's talk about that. Being both a fly on the wall and being able to walk in like you own the place. Good find, bro.
Thanks.
Yeah.
It was a team find.
It's what it started with is, when you have a camera and somebody says, come cover this or whatever, or you ask if you can come cover something, you just have to, the camera is a good veil, right? So most people are surprised when I say this, but I'm actually an introvert. Some people would call me the most extroverted introvert they know, but I definitely am. I don't actually like to be in front of the, in the limelight. So having a camera is great. You get to have a spot there, but then you have something to sort of hide behind.
Yeah.
So that suited my personality. It was like, it gave me an important place there, but sort of, I wasn't the focus. And so, what I learned in that process is, first of all, if people are going to trust you, you kind of have to have that, act like you own the place kind of thing, or like you belong there, right? So if you're shooting something, you just have to be willing to walk backstage or willing to get in the spot to get the shot, that kind of thing. Or get to the person who can answer the question that you want answered. And that takes a little bit of courage, right? Like you have to insert yourself sometimes. But it's also respectfully, of course. And I think that's super important. It's not about being arrogant, but it's just about being where you need to be to do the best job that you can do. And you have to respect people because they're giving you their time, they're giving you their information, whatever it may be, right? Mm-hmm. And you just have to really make it kind of worth people's while in a respectful way. So I think I learned to insert myself. I learned to be humble though, because you are behind the camera, you aren't the story, you're telling the story, I guess. Right. And then, and just sometimes you got to fake it till you make it, like the confidence part, right? Like, yeah. So you don't own the room. You don't feel like you own the room, but you walk in like you own the room so that you can do the job you need to do. And, that's, served me well in a lot of areas of my life, but sometimes it's really important just to observe, right? And let people, whether it's let people shine or hear people's truths and listen, not think you are the whole team, but be part of the team, whatever that, principle is. There's something right about just being part of it and not trying to direct it. So that whole process taught me a lot. I use it, constantly, I use it when I'm tackle a new project at work in a social situation. Maybe I'm not totally feeling like from an introvert perspective, and I just have to kind of like make it work. Because I definitely feel like that a lot. So, it's about a lot of things. It's about confidence, humility, listening, just jumping in, whether, you totally know what you're doing or not. To me, it's taught me most of the things that I need in a work and social setting,
Yeah, that's great. So before I jump in and just agree with everything you're saying, so you mentioned that you wanted me to bring up the Goldy coaching, because that was the first time that we had worked in a different professional capacity. Because normally you've just seen us cast and do what we do, and you hadn't seen me actually coaching. So we had the privilege of working with the casino and working with a couple of their talent and getting to coach them for a particular job. And so I know that was a lot of fun for me, and it was a really exciting time. But you got to sit there and just sort of see the behind the scenes. I think part of it too was everyone was going like, who is this guy? Like, we know him as one thing. Let's make sure that it's legit. Let's actually make sure he knows what he's doing. So yeah, what was that experience like for you?
Yeah, well, just for people who aren't familiar with it, so just kind of in a nutshell, the project was our casino client had created like a mascot, right? So it wasn't your traditional like read a line and adapt that character in a commercial, which is might be like a mom or a spokesperson or whoever that person is in a commercial, but it was like a character who had to sort of improv, right, in the setting at the property. So it's definitely a different kind of project. It was a lot of fun because there was wardrobe and makeup and hair and personality and all of that stuff. And what you helped us with is obviously you helped us cast and find the people that we worked with, but then help them develop their style, right? Mm-hmm. And then fine tune it. And that was such a neat process because when I sat there and watched you work and help develop those characters, those actors, I should say, right? And how they portrayed those characters. I felt like I got my own lesson because it wasn't even so much about the exact words or the exact whatever they ended up doing. It wasn't even about that. It was about how they were seeing themselves. And you basically held up a mirror, right? Like you said, walk into me and address me like you would a client at the property. And then you said, okay, here's what I'm seeing in your body language. Here's what I'm seeing and here's how I'm connecting with you. So this makes it easier to kind of brush you off. And this makes me want to engage. Mm-hmm. And it made me realize like what we put out there is so impactful on how we're received, right? What we get back from people.
Yeah.
And so it was just and it was also really neat to watch the person you were working with grow. Like I was definitely a fly in the wall in that situation. I didn't necessarily have to be there. You guys were what was important in that dynamic, but I'm so glad I came because like I felt like it was my own lesson in interacting and confidence and how all of it, body language, sincerity, tone, proximity and closeness to you, even like all of it made such a big difference in how I saw what they had to experience too. Like what they were doing was hard.
Really hard.
They had to walk up, read a person, figure out how to respond, get some kind of positive interaction, whatever that was, make them smile or doesn't leave them with a good feeling. And they had to figure that out on the fly with all the different personalities out there, right? It wasn't just this is the vibe you have to put out because this is how everyone's going to react. But they had to like read the room in every interaction. And what I learned watching you do that is you are, and I'm not just saying this to make you like, you're very, very good at what you do. It was an art what you did, and it was a gift what you gave the person that I saw you working with. And I actually like got teared up, which sounds weird, but like it made me emotional watching you do that because I saw the work you were doing and it came so natural and easy for you. Like it didn't seem like something you had to work terribly hard to get to. But I mean, obviously that's development in yourself to get to that point, but it was amazing. It was like a highlight. That project and that process working with you guys was like a highlight of that time at work. It was amazing.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. That's really cool. So I believe so heavily in what you just said about being the camera person, by the way, that is the essence of The Best Listener in the Room, which is the book that I'm still in the process of writing. And if you think about what that means, you guys, so we're to be a fly on the wall, you're holding the camera. Imagine yourself as just part of the equipment. You walk in and you're just an extra leg of the tripod. So when people see you, they're not intimidated by you. Yet you belong. You're there because you're not judging. We're like, okay, you're there. Awesome. I'm not going to pay attention to you in such a way that I'm worried about you. Now, here's where everyone, I think, makes the big mistake. You come in with the camera and then you disengage for even a second. And someone happens to look over at the camera and they see you going, that's when you miss the moment. That's when you miss that moment that you could have gone back and asked the right question at the right time, and you got the story. And what Samara said was, she said, I showed up and I wasn't the story, they were the story, right? And then she was talking about me just a second ago with the Goldy, saying, you guys were the story. I wasn't the story that day, not at all, nor am I ever. And I think anybody who thinks they're the story they're not. As soon as you think that that's the case, you're no longer going to be the story. So you need to approach everything from that humility place. Even if you're the keynote speaker, it can't be about you. It's got to be about everybody else. You're connecting into how can I help, how can I love, how can I serve, and really it just comes from listening. So what you watched me do, and I think you got emotional because you are connected in this way, and you know some of these things intuitively and instinctually, and you've worked on them yourself. And you like you said, not everyone would see what I was doing. Not everyone would be as sensitive to be able to pick up like, oh wow, like that's a really good question he just asked right there. I see him just listening in silence, and I'm watching it have this huge impact on her. Wow, that's cool. Not everybody would be able to pick up on that, but that's exactly what I was doing. Is I was walking in there going, I don't know. How can I help? I don't know. Let's ask good questions. Let's figure out what are your vulnerabilities, and let's be honest here. This is a tough job. Let's talk about that tough job. Let's realize how you, Goldy, walking in, can be a fly on the wall and own the room, because that's really what they had to do. They had to blend in so they weren't offensive and they weren't annoying, but then at the right time, the right moment, they needed to be ready to jump in and own the room and totally connect with somebody. And, and when the partners walked in or whoever else saw them there, they had to be like, oh, you know what? I'm proud that girl is here right now working with our company. Like, I'm really proud that they are a part of our team, and that was really what we had to train them to do. And that's a hard thing to do.
For sure. I'd like to throw another compliment Samara's way. So I know. What's that?
I said I want to start every morning with you.
Oh, you're the best.
Mornings with Matt and Samara.
And Samara. A minute ago, you mentioned that you in that Goldy date, you didn't have to be there, right? Technically, you didn't have to be there. And I think that's something a lot of people, our students and just anybody can hear. You said I was able to be a student. I was able to come in and learn from the things that Matt was doing. And you do this really well too, Matt. You'll walk into a room and go with anybody, whether it's, and Matt says it this way, whether it's one of our 4-year-olds all the way up, I can learn something from anybody. And so the fact that I didn't have to be there. I didn't need to technically be there, but I chose to anyway to go see this and learn from this part of the process is something that's commendable. And a lot of people don't do that. Same thing, and I think it's a spotlight thing. I know I've been guilty of this. It's like, oh, I don't have to be there. It's not about me right now. I'm not going to be in the focus point. But you went, no, I'm just going to come in, be the fly on the wall, listen, learn, and you grew from it. You got emotional from it. And, I think a lot of people can learn from just being willing to do that,
I totally agree. And you know what? I've just decided, because I realized, holy moly, it's been an hour.
Whoa.
Can you believe that? So we're going to have a Samara part 2 where we dive further into casting and some of that process for the actors that watch.
Now, I don't want to put on the spot, but do you have a challenge at all?
Let me think about that. But first I want to just give some people that are out there some advice based on Samara's story here.
Also, if you could repeat her credentials at the end of the episode, our audio was flat for the first 20 seconds.
What is it? What does he mean flat?
It means it was 0.
What happened?
Well, the audio line in on the sling was did its thing, so it flatlined.
Sling.
Flatline.
But
so it was 20 seconds. Did we know this for a fact?
Yeah, it was 20 seconds to a minute.
Did you pull out a stopwatch or?
I saw the audio levels before you said good morning.
I don't
Samara."
know if this part of the show could be more awkward if we tried. We should go back and try to make it more awkward.
I feel like I could make it more awkward. I feel like I'm kind of the king of awkward.
All right, so here's the big lesson, the big takeaway I want everyone to learn from Samara, who works over at Riester, which is an amazing company that we love tremendously. She's been there for 7.5 years. She's killing it over there. They're an advertising agency, Riester. They help other companies market themselves and expand and grow, and Riester has been taking off in unbelievable ways. So just credentially, that's who Samara is and where she comes from. But how did she get to be a part of this great company? Okay, and this is what I want to give everyone, because here's the deal. Right now is an unprecedented time. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. It's weird. Like, it's just weird. Like, we feel like we're in a movie. We're wearing masks. Like, okay, I get it. But at the same time, it's not all that different from any other crisis you've had in your life, any other time that you felt upside down. The only difference is we all feel upside down at the same time. So that's kind of like the super weird part. So what did Samara do? She feels upside down. She's in a market, she said, where she wanted to do one thing. She's not going to do that thing. What do I do? So what she did was she started expanding in different areas, started learning about different things that were connected, that she was passionate about, that were all part of the whole. Then when the job opportunity came, she had grown into the job. I bet you if she hadn't done all those freelance gigs and hadn't pushed herself in those different ways, she wouldn't have been hired for the job. So there's a difference between sitting back on your couch being sad and just applying for jobs and going like, oh, I deserve this job. Oh, I want this job. I deserve this job. And actually going out there and finding a way to expand right now. And I think that it would be the big lesson for all of us is like, we don't know what the world's going to look like 3 months from now. We really don't even know what it's going to look like 24 hours from now. So because we don't know, let's acknowledge, okay, yes, we're in a place where we're upside down. Cool. What is the only answer? Expansion, growth, change, embrace it. Find a way to push yourself into this new thing, and then you're going to gain momentum. When you gain momentum, you're going to be pushing forward, and things will right themselves. It's going to happen at some point in time. We don't know what that'll look like. It might be masks for forever. Who knows? But we're gonna settle in eventually, and when we do, whether that's a week from now or 5 years from now, you want to be someone who's been bettering yourself that whole time. So then it's like, yep, I'm going to hire that person right there. And these 10 who have been sitting at home are going to probably keep sitting at home. So be the one who's out there expanding and doing and growing so that a great company like Riester, when the job is open, is going to go out and look for somebody and they're going to go, who's been the person who's been grinding? Oh, she has. Let's hire her. Okay, that's my big rant.
Well, I think it's a good recap, right? You know, you've gotta constantly be improving yourself. And, you know, we are so lucky to have all the rights that we have in this country and to have all the resources. And, you know, some people just aren't born into, you know, the opportunity to just get out and get an education or whatever the thing is, right? So we have a chance and we need to take advantage of it every day, even if it is like, I'm going to make the best banana bread there ever was, or, you know, something fun, just excited about doing. It doesn't always have to be the next big thing in your life, the next huge chapter, but just constantly improving and having fun and moving. Yeah, that's it.
Absolutely. All right. Well, Samara, we are big fans of yours. We are grateful. Should we give a shout out, more of a shout out to Riester? If there are any companies out there who are watching who connect into this, how could they work with Riester? How could they connect with you? And how might Riester be able to, like, what's the first step in connecting in with a company like Riester in order to help my company like go next level?
Sure. Well, let's see. So, I mean, obviously, Riester.com is a good place to start. They're on Facebook and on Instagram. So just in terms of connecting, those are 3 ways to actually reach people.
And you want to spell that for us?
What's that?
Will you spell it?
Oh, yeah. That does get misspelled occasionally. It's Riester. And yeah, so definitely if you're, you know, a freelancer, an agent that we are working with, I think we're working with all the agents in town, but, you know, vendors out there from a production standpoint, there's a lot of platforms. We have PR, digital, media, creative, like traditional creative, and did I say everything? Digital. I can't remember if I said digital or not. So websites and whatnot. So, you know, the great thing about the partners is they're definitely willing to talk to anybody. You know, obviously agencies aren't right for every business out there, but they're willing to sit down and have a chat about what's the budget, what are the needs, what could we do, could we offer a couple services or all the services? You know, so it's always worth having a conversation, whether it's just from the vendor team standpoint or the client standpoint. So yeah, we love working. So we love working working with good people. So anybody who wants to connect, definitely reach out. We're here.
Great. So if you have a business out there, you're trying to go next level, and especially if you're in a growth state, you're finding a way that you need to really take yourself to another big level. Because Riester, I mean, they're awesome. They work with really big clients. But like Samara just said, if you are on your way to becoming a big client, they're the ones that are going to help you get there. So go to www.riester.com. That is www.riester.com and connect with them. You can sit down with Samara and some other just great people over there and see how you might be able to connect. If you want to follow Samara and see all of her hiking endeavors and her just sitting in the sun on hammocks, too bad she might not accept you as a friend, but you can try to find her on Facebook and Instagram. She is there, and she is wonderful. We love you. We are grateful for having you this morning. Thank you so much.
I appreciate you so much. I think what you're doing to kind of lift everybody up and just bring some extra goodness and thought provoking material to people's attention is awesome, and I love working with you, and it was nice to spend the morning together.
Thanks, Samara. Okay, and thank you, Brian and Joey. Appreciate you guys as always. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been Mornings with Matt. Please do not forget to like and subscribe to our channel. Share this video with those you think might need it. The one major thing you can do to help our cause right now is to subscribe to our channel. We care because YouTube cares, and so the more subscribers we have, the more that they're gonna keep helping us spread this light-driven message. So thank you so much. Have a great day.
Thanks for listening to Mornings with Matt. Please like, subscribe, and follow us at Deering Acting Studio to keep up with the latest content. For more information on classes, private lessons, or professional development coaching, visit www.deeringstudio.com. Have a Deering day, everyone.